Thanks for logging on to Wayne.com for another edition of Inside the Zone. Tom Davis, the sports editor at the News Sentinel, joining us as always to talk some prep football. And Tom, week 2 is in the books, so we've gotten a little bit better feel because you never know what's going to happen in week 1. But now that we've gotten a better feel of what's out there on Friday night, what are some of the biggest surprises that you've seen, positive or negative, so far in this 2013 season?
Well, I think from a positive standpoint, the thing that really jumps out at me is Wayne is 2-0. Now, Robert Brown said at Media Day this was going to be a special year for this team, and I was like, whatever, keep talking, tell me some good stuff. But they really have played well so far. Now, they haven't played a Fort Wayne team yet, so it remains to be seen how they'll do in the conference. But anytime the Generals are 2-0, they've got to be excited with that. From a negative standpoint, let's look to the south side of Fort Wayne. Bishop Luers and Southside both have athletic ability, some tradition. Obviously, Luers has great tradition, and they're both 0-2 right now. They're not playing well. In fact, the Archers played what Eddie Fields told me the other night was the worst game that they've played since he's been there. So those are a couple of negative surprises, whereas Wayne is a positive.
And on the positive note, you mentioned Southside. They lost 38-6 to Snyder. On the positive side, is Kurt Tippmann's team reloading better perhaps than we thought? Because I know at the beginning of the year, you were saying they lost 37 seniors off a team that made it to the 5A state championship game. But it just seems like they find bodies, they find athletes, especially on defense, and they can reload as good as or better than any team in our area.
You know what's interesting is he has a philosophy with their freshman team where every kid gets to play in every game at least a little bit. And the reason for that is, number one, it keeps the kids enthusiastic about the sport and wanting to come back out. If you don't play as a freshman, you're not likely to play as a sophomore. You're going to quit the program. But this keeps kids involved in the program, so when they do graduate 37 seniors, so what? They'll bring in another big class, and they've done that this year. I did a story the other day about their 3-headed running back, and they even played a true freshman the other day at the varsity level. So, yes, Snyder is reloaded. They're really good offensively, but defense is really their calling card right now, really doing a lot defensively. They've got to get the quarterback situation, I think, remedied a little bit. They're splitting time with a couple of guys. I really like Colton Painter better the other night. I thought he was more consistent, but Coach Tippmann knows more about that than I do. But, yeah, Snyder's reloaded. I think they're the class of the SAC. I originally said at the beginning of the year I thought Dwenger would win it, and I wouldn't be stunned if that happens, but, boy, Snyder's going to be tough to beat.
And you mentioned that 3-headed monster. Last year, they had a 3-headed monster in the running game. All 3 of those guys graduated, so they've got a whole different crop of guys. That's the scary thing, is they bring in 3 guys of equal talent after a great senior class graduates. Talking a little bit about the Luers game. They have been a little bit of a disappointment this year, and they lose a heartbreaker against Northrop. What does Luers have to do well to put the last 2 games behind him and get focused on the season? Because if you're Bishop Luers at this point with 2 losses already in the SAC, you have to start thinking it's playoffs that we're looking at, and that's always the focus when you're a Luers Knight.
Well, it is, but they do move up a class this year, so it'll be more challenging once we get to the playoffs, but we're a long way from that. I guess the positive for Bishop Luers in being 0-2 is the week 1, they really, not only did they lose to Snyder, which Snyder's a great team like I just talked about, but they really beat themselves with 7 turnovers. Last week, they had a defensive breakdown late in overtime, and they beat themselves again. So it's not like they're going out and really just not being able to compete with teams. So if they can actually play a cleaner game, less penalties, less turnovers, take care of the ball and move the ball offensively, decide on a quarterback themselves. They've got 2 guys battling back and forth. There are things that they can fix and get this ship righted. So I have no doubt that Bishop Luers will end up having a nice season. It's just the first 2 weeks, they've beaten themselves. And hey, they lost 25 seniors. They lost 19 starters off the team last year. So there's a lot of young guys out there right now. So there are going to be growing pains, and obviously they're showing.
Yeah. Losing 25 guys off a 2A team. I know they're playing in 3A this year, but still a 2A-sized school.
Right. That
certainly hurt, and I don't want this to go without mentioning. Congratulations to Tim Martone's team, because they've already faced, with Colin Brockhouse out for the season, some adversity here in 2013, and not a great Week 1 loss to East Noble. I was at that one at Spooler Stadium. So a great comeback win for Northrop to be able to answer the bell in the fourth quarter and get a win in overtime against Bishop Luers.